What birds were they? He stood on the steps of the library to look at them, leaning wearily on his ash plant. They flew round and round the jutting shoulder of a house in Molesworth Street. The air of the late March evening made clear their flight. Their dark, darting, quivering bodies flying clearly against the sky as against a limp hung cloth of smoky, tenuous blue. He watched their flight, bird after bird. A dark flash, a swerve, a flutter of wings. He tried to count them before all their darting, quivering bodies passed. 6, 10, 11, and wondered were they odd or even in number. 12, 13, for two came wheeling down from the upper sky. They were flying high and low, but ever round and round in straight and curving lines, and ever flying from left to right, circling about the temple of air. He listened to the cries, like the squeak of mice behind the wainscot. A shrill twofold note, but the notes were long and shrill and wearing, unlike the cry of vermin, falling a third or a fourth and thrilled as the flying beaks claw the air. Their cry was shrill and clear and fine, and falling like threads of silken light unwound from whirring spools. The inhuman clamour soothed his ears, in which his mother's sobs and reproaches murmured insistently, and the dark, frail, quivering bodies, wheeling and fluttering and serving round an airy temple of the tenuous skull, soothed his eyes, which still saw the image of his mother's face. Why was he gazing upwards from the steps of the perch, hearing their shrill twofold cry, watching their flight, for an augury of good or evil? A phrase of Cornelius. Agrippa flew through his mind, and then there flew hither and thither shapeless thoughts. From Swedenborg on the correspondence of birds to things of the intellect, and of how the creatures of the air have their knowledge and know their times and seasons, because they, unlike many, are in the order of their life and have not perverted that order by reason. And for ages man had gazed upwards as he was gazing at birds in flight. The colonnade above him made him think vaguely of an ancient temple, and the ash plant on which he learned wearily of the curved stick of an ogre. A sense of fear of the unknown moved in the heart of his weariness. A fear of symbols and portents, of the hawk-like man whose name he bore soaring out of his captivity on oyster-woven wings, of Thoth, the god of writers, writing with a reed open tablet, and bearing on his narrow ibis hid the coast moon. He smiled as he thought of the god's image, for it made him think of the bottle-nosed judge in a wig putting comments into the document which he held at arm's length, and he knew that he would not have remembered the god's name, but that it was like an Irish oath. It was folly. But was it for this folly that he was about to live forever? The house of prayer and prudence, into which he had been born, and the order of life out, of which he had come. They came back with shrill cries. Over the jutting shoulder of the house, flying darkly against the fading air. What birds were they? He thought that they must be swallows who had come back from the south. Then he was to go away, for they were birds ever going and coming, building ever an unlasting home under the eaves of men's house, and ever leaving the homes they had built to wander. A soft liquid joy, like the noise of many waters, flowed over his memory, and he felt in his heart the soft peace of silent spaces, of fading tenuous sky above the waters, of the oceanic silence, of swallows flying through the Siddiq over the flowing waters. A soft liquid joy flowed through the words where the soft long vowels hurtled noiselessly and fell away, lapping and flowing back and ever shaking the whistle bells of the waves in mute chimes, and a mute peal and soft low swinging cry. And he felt that augury he had sought in a wheeling darting birds, and in a pale space of sky above him, had come forth from his heart like a bird from a turret, quietly and swiftly. Symbols of departure or of loneliness. The verses crowned in the air of his memory, composed slowly before his remembering eyes the scene of the hall, on the night of the opening of the National Theatre. He was alone at the side of the balcony, looking out of jaded eyes at the culture of Dublin, in the stalls and at the toiletry, skin clothes, and the human dolls, framed by the garish lamps of the stage. A burly policeman swayed behind him and seemed at every moment about to act. The cat calls and hisses, and mocking cries ran in rude gusts round the hall from his scattered fellow students. A label on Irish, made in Germany. Blasphemy. We never sold our faith. No Irish women ever did it. We want no amateur atheists. We want no budding Buddhists. A sudden swift hiss fell from the windows above him, and he knew that the electric lamps had been switched on in the reader's room. He turned into the pillared hall, now calmly lit, went up the staircase and passed in through the cleaning turnstile. Cranley was sitting over near the dictionaries. A thick book, opened at the frontispieces, lay before him on the wooden rest. He leaned back in his chair, inclining his ear like that of the confessor to the face of the medical student, who was reading to him a problem from the chess page of a journal. Stephen sat down at his right, and the priest at the other side of the table closed his copy of the table with an angry snap and stood up. Cranley gazed after him blandly and vaguely. The medical student went on in a softer voice. Pound to Kingsforth. We had better go, Dixon, said Stephen in warning. He has gone to complain. Dixon folded the journal and rose with dignity, saying, "Our men retired in good order, with guns and cattle," added Stephen, pointing to the title page of Cranley's book, on which was written diseases of the oaks. As they passed through a lane of the tables, Stephen said, "Cranley, I want to speak to you." Cranley did not answer or turn. He laid his book onto the counter and passed out, his well-shod feet sounding flatly on the floor. On the staircase, he paused and, gazing absently at the Dixon, repeated, pound to king's bloody fourth. Put it that way if you like, Dixon said. He had a quiet, toneless voice and urban manners, and on the fingers of his plump, clean hand, he displayed at moments a signet ring. As they crossed the hall, a man of dwarf stature came towards them. Under the dome of his tiny hat, his unshaven face began to smile with pleasure, and he was heard to murmur. The eyes were melancholy as those of a monkey. "Good evening, gentlemen," said the stubble-grown monkeyish face. "Warm weather for March," said Cranley. "They have the window open upstairs." Dixon smiled and turned his ring. The blackish monkey puckered face pursed its human mouth with gentle pleasure, and its voice purred. "Delightful weather for March." "Simply delightful." "There are two nice young ladies upstairs, Captain." "Tired of waiting," Dixon said. Cranley smiled and said kindly, "The captain has only one love." "Sir Walter Scott, isn't that so, Captain?" "What are you reading now?" Dixon asked. "The Bride of Lammermoor." I loved old Scott. The flexible lips said, "I think he writes something lovely." "There is no writer can touch Sir Walter Scott." He moved a thin, shrunken brown hand gently in the air. In time to his praise, and his thin, quick eyelids beat often over his sad eyes. Sadder to Stephen's ear was his speech. A gentle accent, low and moist, marred by errors. And listening to it, he wondered, was the story true? And was the thin blood that flowed in his shrunken frame noble, and come of the incestuous love? The park trees were heavy with rain, and rain fell still and ever in the lake, lying grey like a shield. A game of swans flew there, and the water and the shore beneath were folded with their green-white slime. They embraced softly impelled by the grey rainy light. The wet silent trees, the shield-like witnesses lake, the swans, they embraced with joy or passion. His arm about his sister's neck. A grey woolen cloak was wrapped athwart her from her shoulder to her waist, and her forehead was bent in willing shame. He had loose red-brown hair and tender, shapely, strong, freckled hands. Face? There was no face seen. The brother's face was bent upon her fair rain fragrant hair. The hand freckled and strong and shapely and curling was Davin's hand. This video is taken for the Navi Darius page.